Welcome to the Feel Worthy podcast. Today I'm joined by Gabriella Robuccio, event professional, keynote speaker, consultant, and founder of Pro Event Tips. Gabriella has built a platform rooted in the power of communication. And in this conversation, she shares how emotional intelligence is woven into every part of events. We talk about feedback as an essential part of career growth, why vulnerability is a strength in leadership, and how setting boundaries protects both our energy and our purpose. Gabriella also offers practical strategies for building genuine relationships so we can feel worthy communicating with every type of event stakeholder. This episode is filled with clarity, encouragement, and actionable wisdom you can carry into your next event and beyond. Let's get into it. Hi, Gabby. Welcome to the Feel Worthy podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this conversation is, I feel like, long awaited. Like, we've been chatting, and I was thinking about this the other day. We became internet friends and just real friends. And now it's normal, but before it would have been like, could we have been catfished? Are these real people over the internet? And I was like, no, this is really normal that we like just through, I guess, just the energy over social media and then just normal conversations, we actually, and engaging with each other's content, like we really just found similarities, which I think is pretty fascinating. I don't know if it's rare anymore, but maybe it is.
I think it's our generation. This is how you make friends as adults. We don't have some of the same options that previous generations have had, maybe even some of the newer generations. Like, this is how we meet our adult friends. And when you're in the business that we're in, finding like-minded people makes all the difference in the world. And like, there aren't a lot of event professionals just walking down the streets in Denver. So I find you guys online, and I'm so thankful. So thankful.
I'm sure they exist. You just have to like wear a name tag. I am in the pro. Are you? You know what? We should do that business. We can start sending out shirts to people.
I have my Cricut. Happy to do it.
New business. Look at that. Oh my gosh. But that is, I mean, but that is part of what we're talking about as far as like just having connection within the industry and emotional intelligence. But before we dive into all of the things I really want to talk to you about and ask, I ask every guest just getting a sense of where you are. What does feeling worthy mean to you in this stage of life and career?
I love this question. I love that you're starting everything with this because what a great way to get to know your guests. But for me, in the season of life that I'm in right now, I mean, it's different than it would have been 2 years ago, probably even a year ago. But feeling worthy right now, I am able to make an impact in the industry that I love and still be present in my outside life. It's like I can do what I love without sacrificing what I love. And that gives me a sense of self-worth. I can teach this stuff that we're going to talk about, and then I can spend all day with my 6-month-old son. You know, it's like I feel like I'm worthy of what's coming to me because I'm focusing on the parts of my life that I really love and enjoy. Long answer, sorry.
Not long at all. Oh, that's such a beautiful response because I think that's the dream, right? Historically, the American dream was working in just the US and having this job and like having all this freedom, but and not political at all, just kind of just historically what we've seen as that. But I think, I mean, for me, and I would say a lot more people these days, especially after the pandemic and just in the day and age we live in now, it's if we can make work and living in our purpose a combination and then also be able to put life first, like that I think is the dream. It's not something everyone can have, but it's something maybe most people aspire to have. And if you're doing that already and having that, I think what a way to just live your life. So you might be just living a lot of other people's dreams and just really emulating that or having us help just see that for ourselves in the future.
And bonus that it makes an impact. The work that both of us are doing, we get to genuinely impact people in our industry that we wish we had, you know, when we first started. So I think that's an extra bonus.
I think so. And I think everyone hopefully will be a lot better for it. And then I don't know, and then they'll be solving the next world's problems.
And we'll be retired on an island somewhere.
Got this. Keep going. But so we've started to dabble a little bit, but can you tell, for those who don't know you, which I know you're very popular in the event industry, but for those that are still getting to know you, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now with Pro Event Tips.
Sure. So Pro Event Tips is my baby, and it started with a gap that I saw in the events industry because I've been doing events for over 15 years, and I had kind of a strange trajectory. I started in planning events for live broadcast television, and then I was doing fundraising events. So I got a good view of the industry overall, and I noticed some big gaps. So I decided to take what I noticed was missing, which also happens to be one of my superpowers, and put it into a format that can be taught and digested by other event professionals who may be suffering from the same things that I did or struggling with the same issues that I was. So my company does consulting workshops in public speaking regarding stakeholder management. So managing the millions of relationships that we have to deal with in events, how to do that healthily with boundaries, all the stuff that we're hopefully going to talk about today.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds incredible. I think it's something that everyone needs. But what were you doing before? You said a 15-year history in the event space. So what were you doing before that led you to this journey? So specific events, corporate events, weddings.
That's a great. So I started at ESPN. So I was the production manager for all things soccer. So FIFA, UEFA, MLS. I basically planned all of the logistical pieces of the on-site broadcasts. So I didn't do any of the content. I did all of the the hotels, locations, city permits, credentials, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I did that for 10 years. And then during pandemic, there weren't events anymore. And my husband got a job in Utah. So hey, why not move across the country? And then I started working in corporate nonprofits, and that job put me in a middle management position. And the middle management position is what kind of exposed the gap that I was referring to. So, and I think, and I'll just get into the story now, but I was sitting in that middle management position, and because I had direct reports, I was offered leadership training, emotional intelligence training, all kinds of skill sets that help you manage a group of people. And as I'm sitting in these courses, I'm like, where the heck was this when I started my first event at the World Cup? I may not have had official direct reports, but Lord knows I was leading a massive team. And I realized that we aren't taught this in this industry. And relationships and managing multiple relationships is the backbone of this entire industry. And it's something that I really enjoy and that I'm actually really good at. So I was like, I looked at my husband and I was like, I gotta teach this. Like, I'm not having enough of an impact in this position that I'm in right now. I just want to shout it from the rooftops. And I'm very fortunate that he was like, if you're gonna do it, go all in. So went all in, and a year and a half later, here I am.
And an amazing place to be in. And I do agree that's remarkable. And not everyone gets that, right? I'm sure I've asked you before, but I'll ask it again. Like, where is the training for all of these, for everyone at the initial start level? And why don't younger, or I know there's like middle managers, people managers, as some industries may call it, so they have actual direct reports. For those even looking to get into people management, where do you even begin to learn these skills?
You don't. And that's what there's a good group of us trying to do this. You're part of the movement too, whether you like to admit it or not, but that's what you teach with your leadership skills, the series that you do on Instagram. It's that type of stuff. And I think where do people get it is they don't, or they get it from your next level leadership, or they get it from my Real Talk series, It's not integrated into certifications or trainings. Like, we can all do a kick-ass run a show. No problem. We can manage an Excel spreadsheet. We can, all of that. People just expect us to be good at the people side of it, because 9 times out of 10, if you work in events, you either enjoy working with people or you're really good at it. So they just assume we have these skills. And unfortunately, I think of a lot of event professionals also assume they have these skills, but it's something that you have to continually learn, flex, work on, whatever. And it's just not offered out there. There may be like a module or 2 on it in one of the certifications, but that's certainly not enough for what we are challenged with in every single event cycle.
Absolutely. Like I said, I don't know that I've received it or formal training. I think I learned through books, podcasts, your content, and I thought it was just something that everyone inherently had or knew, and maybe that's why I wasn't taught until I did learn that there were other senior leaders or those that had direct reports receiving that specific training, because they were now responsible for other people developing them and working with them. But how did you get so good at it? What, where did the interest come in for you?
I my sister would say it was from childhood trauma by trying to make everyone around me happy or trying to be the people pleaser in the room.
Mhm.
I think I'm just very fortunate that one, I do enjoy working with people, but this what a great segue in today's topic. I think that my self-awareness and my empathy, I'm born with that, nurtured with that, not entirely sure, but it is something that I am really good at and I know how to use. And you can turn those skills into almost anything when it comes to relationships, communication, leadership. And I also was very fortunate to have some incredible female leaders at ESPN. I've had some who have shown me what not to do, but I've also had a lot who have shown me exactly what it means to lead with strong relationships. And, the dichotomy between the two, knowing what I wanted to be like, knowing I had those skills, I was like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. This is it. This is what I want to teach people. So I think I've been very lucky. My sister would say childhood trauma, though.
It all stems from somewhere, right? It's fine. There'll be a therapist on the show later. Uh, we can all unpack it together. But I know you talked about ESPN, and I wanted to ask this earlier, but it just dawned on me too. How did you even know you wanted to be in the events industry? How did you find like your first events position? Was it through college, like you knew you wanted to do that specifically, or did you stumble into it? I think a lot.
Like most people, I ended up in events by accident.
Yeah.
Total accident. I wanted to, since I was a tiny little girl, I'm watching NFL and MLB on ESPN. That was my dream job. I wanted to be there. Of course, at one point I thought I would be on the sidelines of the NFL. I cursed far
Coaching?
too much for that. Oh no, on air broadcasting.
Oh, really?
I thought I was going to be on the sidelines, but no, like I said, I cursed way too much for that. So I got a job at ESPN. I was working overnight ingesting tapes for the Great Outdoor block on the weekends. Didn't care, just wanted to be in
In the
ESPN
room
because it
where it
was my
happened.
dream job. And so I started to make friends, and we were all transplants. So people come from all over the country, world to work at ESPN. None of us had families there. So Thanksgivings, Christmases, summer vacations, barbecues, we all did that together as like a little pseudo family. And I planned it, like, cause that was just, I love doing it. That's what was one of my favorite things to do. Even vacations, I'm doing itineraries, all that stuff. And one day, one of my really good friends who worked on the MLB team, he was like, this is a job, right? And I was like,
No.
what? Say more. And he was like, we have production managers who do all this. Like, you know how you organize all of our lives and the events and all the stuff we do? They literally pay people to do that for sports. And I was like, okay, had no idea. So found out more about the department, started shadowing anyone that would let me. And after about 6 months and 2 or 3 interviews, because it's, everybody wants to, yeah.
Being that
After
role.
about 3 interviews, I got the job and I ended up getting put on soccer, which is a sport that I absolutely love and played my whole entire life. And my first big event was the World Cup in Brazil, the 2014 World Cup. It was 2 years before the World Cup, but that was the first thing I got assigned to. And I was like, well, holy moly, I am the luckiest person on earth. Then I had to work it and the luck feeling went away a little bit, but no, it was totally by accident, just totally kismet. If he hadn't said that to me, I probably would have never even known that that job existed. And then it just blossomed from there. Then I do nonprofits, then I'm doing freelance. So yeah, it was totally by accident.
No, it's funny that you say that. That's how a lot of us found it. Because now I've seen more courses, and what a crazy story. Like, and not crazy, but crazy, like
Oh,
in a
it's
great
crazy.
way. Like, it was absolutely kismet. Like, it was meant to be that he mentioned that to you. But I think there's more awareness about it now. But and more courses about it within like universities or even
Yep.
just like trade programs. And now more people are more event planners or entrepreneurs are starting their own wedding planning business. Like it just seems more relevant now that this is a job than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, which I think is pretty, like, just speaks to the amount of like visibility the events industry just has and the awareness. Like these things are just not put on by like fairies or just magic like gnomes in the back corner. Like they are put on by real people with strategic ability and also an ability to put logistics together, but also have, I think, the soft side of having relationships and curating that, which I think is often overlooked. And it's a
Yep.
core of what we talk about and what I think is so important. And I think it's the intangibility of it sometimes that people can't see that the relationships matter, or that vouching for someone or just having a good relationship with someone could unlock all these other things. So I think it just seems also a bit mysterious for people if they haven't experienced it themselves. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree with you. And I think, I mean, just look at the content that Julius Solaris puts out. The
Mhm.
event industry itself is going to be in the trillions in the next 10 years. And over the past 10 years, it is almost tripled to get to where it is now. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think that social media and the internet have completely flipped marketing on its head. And events have become an integral part of marketing for brands, companies, products, whatever it is. But then also in the last 5 years in particular, it's since the virus that shall not be named, I think that people have been craving and focusing on in-person collaborative community type things, that people are starting to like look at events as actual things and not just add-ons to a product launch or add-ons to something like that. I think it's something that people are craving. And like I said, when you're an adult, how do you find like-minded people? Through the internet, through events, through stuff like that. So I think people are seeking it out, and it's putting us right in the spotlight. And it's going to be even more now that AI is coming up. It's like people are going to want the people side of things, and that's what we do. We can't be replaced by a robot
No, no, there's
for
so
now.
much nuance that I don't, and right, for now, I don't know that that nuance can be picked up or absorbed or replicated, like, especially for not just ourselves, but like the situations that we're put into. And so, with events gaining more and more visibility, to the stats that you talked about from Julius and everything we've seen in the industry, how it's just continuously growing, events are now being put on the map, even with the Times 100 chief event officer being named. I think again, there's just been so much in the last year that events, the events industry is an actual industry, and it isn't just a person in marketing that's doing a job. It's actually a role and a defined strategy that's in place. I also think with emotional intelligence and relationship building, that is coming to the forefront of being spoken about, not just with connection and peers, but also with vendors and the teams that you work with and volunteers. I want to dive into the EQ conversation and start with this really base level. What does emotional intelligence really mean? And especially when it comes to relationship building.
I love that you asked this question. And full transparency for the people, you and I have had these conversations just in our personal life, and it's so funny having them, that it's like, oh, there's so much more to it than just what you initially think that emotional intelligence is. And it is way more deep than most people realize. And I love that you're asking, start from the beginning, because I don't think a lot of people know. And I think it's going to become very important now that we're being put in the spotlight. If you aren't able to master emotional intelligence,
Absolutely.
you're not going to be able to master, what's being thrown at you. So we'll start with the definition of it. It's a little wordy, but I think it helps when you hear the definition. So it's emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions while also recognizing, understanding, and influencing the emotions of the people around you. So that's a lot of words. And I'll say it, but that's essentially what it is. So you have to understand your own emotional triggers and being socially aware of those, understanding how to control those in certain situations, how to get ahead of them before they get out of control. And then having the capacity to recognize the emotional state in the people around you and being able to respond appropriately to that, to keep situations level set and keep the conversations positive, collaborative, and rather than turning into major conflicts. It's a lot of words, but it's essentially just being self-aware, managing your emotions, and then being able to help other people do the same.
I mean, a lot of words, yes, but it's also layered. Like, I think I initially thought of it, I know we've talked about the definition offline, but as just knowing certain skills. So being able, like empathy. But the idea that you have to now understand yourself and your own emotions and regulate yourself, and then also assess a situation with other people involved and be able to understand their point of view to do those things together seems like a lofty goal for a lot of people.
It is,
And
and it feels like a lot. And there's four main pillars, and when you like spell it out, it's like you have to do all of that. The good news is that most of the time you're already doing one or more of them. And layered on the good news is that once you start understanding it and practicing it, it's something that can become second nature. It's not a ton of complexity. It's not a huge process that you have to do every time. You do have to practice, but once you practice, it becomes second nature. And it's something that happens instantaneous. So that makes it feel a little bit more manageable overall.
it feels digestible versus it's like this is just a very tall order for I think people, especially
Yep.
in a high pressure environment where change orders are coming last minute. I now need a new tablecloth color in the color red that can never be found because it's not in season or it doesn't exist, or new level demands like budget cuts. So having to manage all of that at once can, I think, feel daunting. But you did say something that I wanted to touch on. So you said there were four pillars
Yeah.
underneath
Yeah.
emotional intelligence. What are the four pillars?
Great question. Sorry, probably should have said that. So
No,
the
no,
four things in emotional intelligence are kind of what I touched on, but to give them titles, there's self-awareness, so
hmm
understanding your own emotional state and what triggers it. Self-management, being able to keep your emotions in check in those high pressure situations. Then there's social awareness, which is the empathy, which is being able to mirror or empathize with people and see when they're feeling stressed, so that you can respond appropriately. And then the fourth pillar has a couple different names. A lot of people just say that that's the relationship management. I call it the interpersonal skills. So that's the fourth one. So it's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and then interpersonal skills. Those are the four core pillars. And like I said, most of the time you're already doing one, two, maybe even three of them without even realizing it.
So how can one find out which of these perhaps they are perhaps better than others? If that's, I think, the appropriate way to say it. Because as you said, all four are possible, but maybe someone is better at self-awareness than they are self-management, and pick any of the four, I think, interchangeably. But how can one find out which one they like excel in more than the others?
So this is a trick question because if you're not good at the first one, if you're not self-aware, it's really hard to figure out which ones you are good at. So, I mean, obviously a lot of introspection, and the more you read about it, listen to courses about it, there's a ton of books about it, which I can give you some titles and you can put them in the show notes for people if they're interested in reading about emotional intelligence. But I think the best thing that you can do is feedback. Get feedback. Ask for feedback. Be open to feedback. Have really open and honest conversations with people around you that you trust. What did you say before you were talking about having your own advisory board? You mentioned that, and this is what this is. Have someone from your personal life, have someone that you work with, have someone you used to work with, and ask them. Ask for feedback, especially if you want to get better at this. And in some of these books, they can give you specific questions that you can ask. An EQ assessment that I'm creating that can help you just by answering questions, see where you're doing really well and where you may need to, take some courses or whatever. It's like feedback is the best way to do it, especially if you're not a self-aware person. Then I can't tell you be introspective because if you're not self-aware, you're not going to see anything wrong, which I think is more common than we like to admit.
I think but like you said, a skill that can be learned if people are open to it. And also, I think just this conversation alone, if it was eye-opening for me and I thought it's a natural skill, everyone has high emotional intelligence. And I realized that it's not the case as you meet more people and get into new situations and work further in the industry and have just different, even just events that you're working on, you start to see other people's behaviors and habits. And just having this conversation, I think alone is eye-opening. So it could be bring awareness to the fact that, oh, there are now four aspects of this that I may need further education or support on to be a well-rounded leader so that I can support my team effectively. So I think awareness is everything.
Right.
All right, I want to switch gears a little bit into more of the boundaries aspect in events and also like effectively communicating that with your peers, your boss. It can seem like a dirty word, I think, and something that's like has a negative connotation in the event industry because we're known for saying yes. Event planners, professionals, industry leaders usually can say yes to a lot because they don't want to disappoint their client or they don't want to disappoint a customer. And boundaries in terms of this industry and when it comes to communication, why is it important? Is it important? Does it matter?
100% it matters. And as a recovering people pleaser, as most of us in the events industry, yep, you as well, we're doing good with it. We're getting there.
We're
But
great.
it took me a long time to realize that the client's always right, or you have to say yes to everything, you can never say no, is such an antiquated way to do business, that in the time that we're in right now in 2025, with, mental health finally being something that people are talking about, psychological safety in the workplace finally being something that's recognized, that shit's not going to fly anymore. It's not going to fly. And it took me a long time to realize that I was that people pleaser. The whole time I was at ESPN, I was yes, 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 never set boundaries. I'm answering emails in the ER waiting room. True story. Like, I just was not good at setting boundaries. I wasn't promoted. I was given some good tasks, but I was never promoted. It took me a long time to realize that setting boundaries is what creates mutual respect. If you respect yourself enough to set and hold appropriate boundaries, and you respect your stakeholders, your colleagues enough to respect the boundaries that they set, instantly the relationship is stronger. Instantly people hold you in a higher regard, because if you don't respect yourself, why the hell would they, So it's like, boundaries are hard because you want to feel like you're disappointing. You don't want to feel like you're disappointing someone, but 9 times out of 10, if you set a healthy boundary, they're going to do the same thing, and you're both going to be happier because of it. It's like, people say that it makes you look weak, but I think it's the opposite. I think setting and holding boundaries is the most confident and, respectable thing that you can do for yourself and for your team, especially if you're a leader, because then you are the one setting and holding the boundaries with all the stakeholders and protecting your people. You want to protect burnout? Boundaries. It's the only way that you're going to do it. If you do have boundaries, the relationships get stronger. There's mutual respect. People are able to perform a lot better, whether it's a team, a stakeholder, whatever. And your reputation. You're building your reputation as strong, confident, and you don't make compromise. That's what people want in a leader. That's why I was never promoted until I started doing this. Blew my mind.
I hear you about the working in the ER. I was like on the phone working up until like I gave birth, because I needed to just make sure something was sent, and I could not turn it off. When people think of boundaries, I think people think it's just automatically saying no. But from a communication standpoint, what are effective ways to say your boundary without it being a hard no, or just shutting down or ignoring an email? If there are scripts that someone can say or strategies that they can implement that it feels a little easier to set a boundary and communicate that with your peers and or your boss, any ideas or tips for that?
So the way that I've learned to go about setting boundaries, which it sounds really counterintuitive, but I start by asking theirs. I start by asking expectations, asking like, when do you want to have this information sent to you? If I'm thinking specifically of the CFO of the company that I used to do fundraising events for, who was very involved in some of our events. And he was a very hard person to say no to. Great guy, but he knew what he liked and he knew what he wanted. That's how he became a CFO. But I remember that I started asking him, what are your expectations from me? When do you need information? When do you meet with the board? When can I send this to you? And he'd say, my meetings are Monday at such and such time. Meetings with this person are Tuesday. And that gave me the opportunity to be like, I will make sure you have everything for your Monday meeting. I'm going to send it by Friday. You can review it then. And if something comes up over the weekend, I'll reach out, but normally I won't be available on week. You're starting the conversation with, you're going to have everything you need. You're going to have it by the time that you need it. This is where I won't be available, or this is the healthy boundary that I'm setting. I can't do it on the weekends. I have both my kids. You don't want me answering emails when, over the weekends. You get a lot of typos, especially because they love grabbing my phone, but called 911 yesterday on my phone. Anyways, but like, that is how you do it. You can't set boundaries unless you know expectations of people. So start by asking their expectations and then weave your boundaries into that by making sure they know they're still going to get everything they need. Even if you don't work on weekends, they're going to have everything by Friday. And if something happens over the weekend, yeah, you'll fill them in. But you're not going to be answering 10 questions on a Sunday night to get ready for a Monday meeting. It's just not going to happen. That is the best way to do it without being like, I'm not answering phone calls on the weekend. Then people instantly get defensive. But if you're like, you'll have everything on Friday. If you need me, we'll connect Monday morning. It's a lot easier for them to be like, great. And then you have a leg to stand on if they are reaching out to you on the weekend. Be like, hey, sorry, I told you I can't answer on the weekends. Do you want to set a call for 8 a.m. on Monday morning before your meeting? It gives you a leg to stand on. That's the best way that I found to do it. Ask expectations, ask their boundaries, and then provide yours in that context.
I have
That makes sense.
Follow-up questions. It makes perfect sense. So for those, so I get this impression, and again, we have I don't know, a year standing friendship from the internet, but I also, but at the same time, I haven't met you in person, but I will say from what I've gathered from our conversations, I get the sense that you're a very confident person um, and also direct, and you seem like you just seem in charge. I look at Gabby, I'm like, you just know what you're doing.
It wasn't always like that.
But for those that may not be there yet and may not be seasoned in like when and maybe feel uncomfortable like asking those questions, where's the best time to set that tone and start asking those questions? Is it at the beginning of a project or if they're too far deep, let's just say they've already had a working relationship, like how do you start inserting those questions in or get um the courage or the confidence to do that?
First of all, never in too deep. It's never too late to start having these conversations. Definitely gets harder. Like my recommendation and when I work with clients is you started on day one of the project. You get assigned, you have your initial meeting. That should be what the initial meeting is. Who needs to know what? Who needs to know when? Who's in charge of this? But even if you take that meeting figuring it out, that's what you should leave with, and you should have it in writing. But if you join a project in the middle of it, you get hired 2 months before an event, and you weren't there for all the initial conversation, you still need to be able to establish those boundaries. This is where, if you are the manager, you have that. You can't be scared. You have that authority that comes with the title, comes with your expertise. You are hired in that position for a reason. So use that. Even if you're not confident, fake it. You put on a smile and be more, you have to practice at it. It's really hard. And if you're newer to a team or you're not at a management level and sometimes talking to the CFO is really hard because they're intimidating, that's what your bosses should be for. Ask for help. Even I was a manager. I started right before our holiday events at the Healthcare Foundation. I was put in a lot of uncomfortable situations, especially because it was around COVID and there was a lot of changes. I relied on my team. I did not care that I was a manager. Like I knew I had that title so I could have the conversation, but I couldn't go into it blind. I'm looking at my direct reports and I'm like, tell me how you do this. Tell me where the relationship, where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are. Tell me your opinions. You have to be able to be vulnerable and ask the people around you for help. Whether it's your boss, your colleague, whether it's someone in a different department that has a better relationship with that person. You just have to be able to ask for help from those around you, but you also can't be afraid to ask your own questions. That's the easiest way to do it, Kayla. I say this all the time, and I feel like a broken record. Ask questions. Don't go in there with like the hammer down. Start the meetings with the CFO and just ask, hey, I'm new. Want to make sure we establish expectations. What do you blah, blah? Like that is the easiest way to do it. And if you're scared to do that, I don't know, take a shot of whiskey before you do it. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that at work. But like, listen to old school Christina Aguilera to get yourself pumped up and then just walk in there and do it. Once you start doing it and you get over that fear, it gets easier, it gets easier, it gets easier. And you have the people around you help.
It's like a muscle, it sounds like you have to keep like stretching it and flexing it and trying it. If not, like that's where you're never going to get a bicep or a booty like everyone wants these days.
Yes, that's a way better answer. Editor, pretend that was my answer.
No, but I think everything you said was so and let me get closer. Was so genius, and it's true. I mean, you have to just start somewhere, right? And some of these people may feel scary, but I think what we miss sometimes is that they're people, right? I play the new card. Can you walk me through whatever the XYZ situation is, or what are the expectations for this? Because then at least it softens the other person who may think and assume that you should know everything and you have no idea. So just at least saying, and it may not work all the time. And honestly, if you've been you for 10 years, you're not you anymore.
But if you're not new, you just do a slight reframe. Instead of saying, hey, I'm new, can you tell me this? Say, hey, you're really good at this. Or, hey, you know this event inside and out. You know this project. Can you give me advice on how to best do this? Flip it. Just a little reframe. Not, I don't know what I'm talking about. You know what you're talking about. People literally synapses fire in the brain when you ask them to help you and give advice and talk about something that they know about. It literally helps create a chemical reaction that builds your relationship. So it's like, if you're not new, ask them. Not, I don't know. You tell me. There's the reframe. You can do it for the rest of your career.
As you see, all of these is just valuable. This is what the textbook should be writing about. You brought up also a good point and a good just another idea for someone. If it's not like your boss, if it's not directly above you or around you, then even another department, how do you even begin to start making those relationships and a team that's different or new vendors?
This questions. And because it's something that I do, it's make it a priority. One, just because that's my personality, but because it makes such a difference for the, synapse reason that I just mentioned. But this is literally why I started the business, is because not even that you want to talk to the other departments and get their perspective, you have to. If you work on a corporate event team, you're dealing with the corporate finance team or marketing team or the C-suite. And it's like, you are tasked with managing, building, managing, maintaining all of these complex relationships all at the same time while also planning an event. It sounds impossible, but once you know some of these, tips and tricks and skills and you understand yourself a little bit better, it makes it a lot easier to just build the relationships from day one. So if you want level, how do I build those relationships? It's open, honest communication and being reliable. Those are the two number one things. I could go on for hours and breaking each of them down, but don't be afraid to be open, honest, ask questions, admit when you don't know, and do it continuously. It's not a one and done. Do it over and over again. It's like a plant. You can't just water it once and expect it to grow. You have to continuously water them, water the relationships, and then just be reliable. Do what you say you're going to do. Immediately that establishes a level of trust with people. And I mean, we should all be doing that, but you'd be surprised at how many people that isn't a priority. If you can't commit to something, don't. And if you do it.
The reliability piece is something that I also thought was just innate and everyone is doing. But as you continue to work, you see that. And it may not be because they don't want to. It could be all of these other reasons. But if they don't communicate and at least just say, oh, I couldn't get to it because dog ate my homework or the internet went out last night, then you don't know. So I think communication is power, at least just expressing what the situation is. So then the other side of the coin knows. And if they don't know, they can't do anything with that. And then they're just left to assume. So and maybe it feels vulnerable for some people, but just at least just saying, hey, this is where I'm at and this is what my kind of expectations are or what just happened, just so that at least someone knows. I think people are allowed to react however they want to react because they're entitled to their emotions. But if you don't at least start kind of bridging that gap with where you're coming from, I think it's hard for the other person to meet you halfway.
100%. And you said sometimes it's hard for people to be vulnerable. It's so counterintuitive, but sometimes when you let yourself be vulnerable, it's the most empowering thing that you can do. And also, 9 times out of 10, people are going to surprise you. I know the world is upside down, but not everyone's terrible. If you communicate something that you need or something that you don't understand or whatever, 9 times out of 10 people want to help you. They are okay with you making changes or canceling a meeting because you're in the friggin' ER or about to pop a human out. People will be okay. You just have to allow yourself to get uncomfortable because everything, all the magic is on the other side of that fear. And being vulnerable can be so empowering. We both have had kids. Sorry to the males listening, but you are never more vulnerable than when you are on that table. And it is one of the most empowering and powerful things you can do as a human being and as a woman. It's also the most vulnerable you're probably ever going to be. And it's that is so counterintuitive in the brain, but it's once people understand that and they allow themselves to be vulnerable, it makes it a lot easier to ask for help and admit when you're wrong. And those people who can't do that or who overcommit, you're right, they're not doing it to be malicious. They are the people pleasers that are not yet in recovery. And we need to welcome them to our side. But that's what it is. And sometimes you overcommit yourselves. And that's okay too. Yeah. You just have to be honest about it.
we need a recovery program. I don't know what that looks like, but we need some sort of
The event industry is.
I could see it. Again, another business model. We are ready. But that's a lot of it. People just don't realize that that's what they're doing. And I think even just the vulnerability aspect from the giving birth, and for those that are not parents yet, you'll see if you never want to be a parent, totally fine too. I do think that if we're not vulnerable and if we're just holding all of these things in, and as a person that has said yes a lot, I've had the tendency to stuff it all down and then either give all of that out to either my family at an unexpected time that they were not hoping for. It just plays a role in our mental health and how we are just carrying ourselves day to day. I will say from personal experience, I've carried around a huge smile walking through different times and never brought up, and it didn't have to be like the deepest, darkest secrets of my life. It just had to be, I'm having a bad day. And I think from what I've seen in the event industry, it's just put the smile on, tuck it in, and keep going. And not, it doesn't feel like there's an opportunity to even just share that I'm having this kind of moment or day or a situation, and then give that vulnerability to someone else. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but really the thought was just how it plays in your mental health and just holding that in instead of actually just being able to express yourself. Any thoughts?
No, I think I'm like jumping. This is me
Yeah,
trying
please,
really
please.
hard. That's one thing
Away.
I'm working on, cutting people off. Did you see that? I was literally done. This is like so important for people to understand. And this goes back to the emotional intelligence and empathy, because for the whole beginning of my career, I had what I called fake happy Gabby. I was so good at my job. Everyone, she is the friendliest person. She's so much fun. She's always happy, blah, blah, blah. When things go wrong, she's totally fine, blah. And I was beyond a mess on the inside. Like, got to some pretty scary, dark places because I put so much pressure on myself to be fake happy Gabby. And there were a lot of, and I don't want to put it on my bosses at ESPN. That's just the way the world was then, is like that. You don't express those emotions because then you are seen weak by certain people, or they're not going to give you more responsibility because they think you can't handle it. When in reality, if you have a little bit of support, you can handle a lot more. And I think what you're getting to is we need to be that for the next generation and for our current teams. Like, we need to be the leaders that don't have that mask on. Like, yeah, we have to be the ones that hold it together, and we have to stand up for our teams. And that's part of our responsibility when, as leaders. But the other side of that is showing them that it's okay to be vulnerable, showing them that it's okay to be like, I can't do this right now. I need to take 5 minutes, or, hey, I need you to handle this part of the event because me and that person, we can't work together right now. We're going to need some time to rebuild that relationship. Like, I never had bosses that showed that side of it. If they were unhappy, I never saw it. So I never felt comfortable doing it. But I do think there's like, the wind is blowing, the air is changing. People like Janice with Event Minds Matter, like, and Event Well with Helen Moon, like, we are getting to a place where we're not only allowing people to show their emotions, we're encouraging it. And it is our job as this generation of leadership to show the next generation that it's okay to, express that before you get to complete burnout, like all of us have. And that's on us. And I think that that's where we're headed in emotional intelligence, empathy, self-management, all of them, all these pillars, all the layers. This is how you do that. If you can understand this about yourself and you know how to practice it within yourself and be vulnerable enough to show it, they're going to do the same thing. And everybody's going to feel a lot more safe and a lot more healthy and a lot more comfortable just existing as human beings. It's like we're so afraid to show people that we're human beings with needs and, with lives and things that change. No, we can't set that precedent anymore. It's up to us to change it. And I think we are. I think we are doing the work, but it's gonna take all of us, honestly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I am optimistic, especially because of these conversations are happening more and more often. I would love to say that this world is perfect right away. We're not quite there yet, but I do think it's becoming more open for people to have these conversations and share their insights into what it looks like for them, because it is very real. Like, it is. We are going through things day to day. I think there's a opportunity for us to still be professional and professionalism, I think that word has just changed, but still being respectful, still being a strategic leader that is guiding the vision, making things happen, but also caring about people and caring about ourselves. I think when we can show this conversation or the things that are going on, it gives everyone else an opportunity to feel like they're able to do so. I know I just felt like I had to hide some of these things, like being a mom in the workplace, because like a kid has to shut up. I have to look polished and perfect. And that's just horrible. That's not a life. That's not why we have kids. That's not why we have a family. And not just for kids. Like again, families get sick, dogs get sick. Like there's just like so many different things that happen and it makes us all stronger leaders. For some people, it's maybe just finding that balance of how do you still show up as a strong leader, but also bring the vulnerability with you.
Yeah, redefining professionalism. That's such a good point because there is a way to do it professionally. Like, I'm going to quote Taylor Swift here. I'm jumping on the bandwagon, but like, you lose your shit, you lose your leadership. So you have to find the balance of being vulnerable without being a basket case because you still have to be, emotionally intelligent enough to keep your emotions in check so things don't go off the rails, so that you're not insulting the people around you or, being inappropriate. There are some things you don't want to share, but just sharing that there is something is sometimes enough. And I think we're still redefining that. Like if you ask me right now to define how to do it professionally and what that looks like, I'd say it depends on your boss, depends on your job, the event. Like I think we're still defining what that looks like, which is great because that means we have the chance to shape the definition. Like as a generation and an industry, we get to turn this into what we want it to be, which I think is pretty powerful.
I think so too. And it gives me hope for the future for now. And we've talked a lot about vulnerability and it dawned on me that I think to also feel like you can be vulnerable, like some people I think are just naturally just open and good for them. Those that are still working on that, I think there's a sense of like trust that they need to have with another person to even crack the door open. I think to what you just said is like at least just saying something's going on today. This is my mood or I might be off or whatever that case is, and just announcing that, even if it's a little bit. But for those that just feel like they can, it's just I think is that trust. Is that person going to use that conversation against me in the workplace later or undermine me for a position and try to go for my job or again see it as I'm not qualified to do that. In terms of building relationships and having that open lines of communication, how do you just start to build trust with your peers and the people that you work with?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? That's what this all boils down to. And it just goes back to the beginning. It's like, if you are confident and comfortable enough and there's mutual respect where you're setting boundaries and respecting boundaries, that's how you build trust. If you have continuous open communication, if you're open to feedback and giving and getting feedback, good or bad, like all of those things build little bit. They build the foundation of the relationship, like little by little. Some are bigger than others, but it's all of those. Every time you're in a situation where you show up when you say you're going to, or you respect one of your colleagues' boundaries, or you're vulnerable with them about not knowing something. Every time you do that, you're building a little bit of trust. And like, I could go into a million different techniques on how to instantly build trust and, start off on the right foot if you need to, if you're in crash course time. Like there are ways to do that too, but the healthy way to do it and for the long-term goal and not just a quick win it's all those little things. There is not that I have found yet, but there is no magic snap your fingers, you instantly have a ton of trust. You can connect with someone and instantly create a connection. And you should be doing that. But like trust, you got to build it brick by brick by brick by brick. And sometimes you're going to knock a brick over, but then you put two back up. And it's just understanding that it is a process and the process changes based on the season. The process is going to change significantly in the next 2 or 3 years because of technology and AI. And, trust is going to be a hot commodity because no one's going to know who they can't trust. You're not going to be able to trust much in the digital space. So being able to trust in the in-person is going to be even more valuable, but it might be even harder to build. So it's just doing the work. It's, as you said, it's flexing those muscles. It's showing up every single day and it's being vulnerable, being honest, being open. You just brick by brick by brick by brick and keep it up. And don't give up if you knock a brick over. That happens. But if you just keep building, eventually you're going to have a full foundation. And once you have that full foundation, I don't know if you've ever tried to knock a brick wall over, pretty damn hard, you know? Like once you have that, you're good.
Unless you're like Karate Kid kind of
Yeah. Unless you have a sledgehammer, which there are situations that could be a sledgehammer, but you know what I mean. It's like just build that foundation and have patience.
Patience. That's a whole other segment.
Tattooed on me because I'm so bad at it. I literally put the tattoo on me to remind me.
So we said it takes patience, but for those that are just starting out, how do you, like, what are a couple things that they can start to do? They just started a new job, events job, they're trying to prove themselves. What are one or two things that they can quickly implement to start to build trust?
I love this question. So I have a little fun thing that I do called the instant bonding technique.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my fancy title for it. So it's really super simple, but when you're first meeting someone or first starting to build a relationship with someone and you want it to start on a positive note, you want to, create a positive connotation with you as a human, instant bonding technique. There's two things. So the first one is finding common ground. Doesn't matter if it's that you're both two human beings on this floating rock called Earth. Like you have something in common with everyone. Obviously, you want it to be a little more than that, but, shared goals on the event that you're doing, shared outcomes or, what you desire for the outcome of what you're working on. Common ground. If you can find a way to work that into a conversation, for me, it's usually, I used to live in Boston. You went to school there. I used to live in Watertown, blah, blah, blah. Like anything like that. Oh, you run? I run too. It's one of my favorite things to do. Have you ever done a full marathon? Anything like that that shows some similarity between you and that person, as long as it's genuine, is going to create a positive connotation. Like, oh, that's the girl that likes running. Or, oh, that's the girl that lives in Boston that I had something in common with. And then the second piece of it is just offering genuine praise. Genuine. Because if it's not genuine, people will see through it. So it's like, hey, thanks for asking that question in that meeting. I wasn't, sure either, and that created some really good context for me. Or if it's true, I love that yellow dress. Where'd you get it? That's a more female one, but it's also like, hey, the sticker's on your water bottle. What does that one mean? Or that's really cool. Any type of genuine praise and any type of common ground, and you're instantly establishing something for you guys to start laying those bricks on. And it's positive because you're controlling it, whatever. Like you're making it something, the first impression being a positive one. Can't stress enough that it has to be genuine. You can't be faking this. People will see right through it and then your foundation will crumble. Look at me with my bricklaying. But those are two instant ways to bond with someone. And it also helps you. I also use this technique if I got a bad first impression of someone or I don't particularly like working with someone. I find common ground and I offer them genuine praise, and instantly my perspective or perception of that person starts to change too. I'm tricking my own brain and I'm tricking their brain to look at it in more positive connotation. So if you want to establish a relationship with someone or you want to, establish yourself as a person that they're going to remember, that's the easiest way to do it. Instant bonding right there. Just doing those two simple things.
I think that's genius. And also without you, before you said that, those are things that I've naturally done, but I didn't realize that those were things that started to bond. I also know that I have peers and colleagues and people I've met throughout the way that I don't like talking to people. And that is not my MO at all. How do I even get a smidge of that? So I think those two very concrete things are going to change everyone's perception of it. I could do it too.
Yeah, they can absolutely do it too. And you and I can continue to do it. I'm sure there's someone that, the relationship isn't in the best standing. Try that. Try that next time you talk to them and just see how even your brain starts to change and the mood just lightens. Some people are just crotchety, grouchy people and it won't always work, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to establish some sort of positive connection.
I still think they'll remember it, even if they're not going to tell you
100%.
Or it's not going to be outward facing. It's still in the cerebellum and they're still, it'll resonate even if it's not obvious. So I think that's also what we've talked about with trust and building relationships. It may not be visible at first, but it does start to build and it makes a bigger impact for the business and for ourselves as human beings. And are there ways to make that tangible as far as quantifying this relationship? I built this relationship and then this is the return it got me, or this investment, or
This is a phenomenal question. It's one of my favorite quotes and my mic drop moment sometimes when I'm talking in front of people. Relationship management is never going to be a line item in your budget, but it is absolutely going to affect your bottom line. So if you can't put like that relationship made $100,000, but you can say, because I had a good relationship with that sponsor, say it's a sponsor for your event, they're going to come back next year and they may even be upping their donation. Or because I had such a good relationship with my internal team, we don't have as high of turnover. So we're not going to be spending money, time, energy, retraining new people over and over again. Like, because we have such good relationship skills, that bleeds out into what our attendees see and feel. They're going to keep coming back year after year because the overall vibe is great. So you're spending less on trying to recruit new people to come to your event. So it's like there's not specifically a line item for relationships, but it shows up almost everywhere in your bottom line. You're saving time and money because there's less miscommunication. So you're not missing deadlines. You're not having misunderstandings on site that you have to pivot and spend a bunch of and spend a bunch of money to fix or to replace or whatever it is. So it's like, for those people that really want the numbers, that's how you look at it. It is the foundation for all of the line items that you have, because you're going to be spending more on each of those if you don't have the relationship underlying.
Absolutely. No, it does. It's 100%. And I think it's if you have this relationship with the sponsor or this vendor, then you're saying this is the amount of hours that I've already invested in them in this project. And now I'm getting XYZ and I don't have to coach someone, but to actual coach someone or to onboard or to recruit, it's going to cost this amount of hours times this dollars if I have to find I have to recruit them, or so it's my time or it's someone else's or it's three people's. And that's how you start to quantify and just say like this is now hitting our bottom line in that way. So I love your mic drop moment because I think it is again something intangible, something that's not visible to the eye, and people can say, oh, who needs that relationship? We can just find a new one. Well, the cost to just get one is not apples to apples. You're actually spending more. Even someone just posted this video about Starbucks and Target having to get new customers after the changes that they made impacted the customer base. The customers just stopped coming because they no longer aligned with their values. So now they're spending double, triple to actually increase their marketing efforts so that customers can come back in, or try new things so that customers can come back in. But who knows if they will.
Staff too.
Yeah.
They lost a lot of
100%.
employees who didn't believe in that. And I love that you said vendors, especially in our industry, because like vendors and word of mouth marketing is the secret sauce to events. If you have good relationships with your vendors, think about all the other events that they go and provide their services for. If they like working with you, if they have a good relationship with you, they're going to name drop you. They're going to post you on their social media. It's like, that is money right there. That is like, you can see it, marketing money that you're saving right there if you're good to your vendors.
Totally. Word of mouth is so powerful in this industry. It's how things get done. So if you want to build that relationship, you want to build that credibility within your new company or business, it is having that impact in relationships so that people can speak highly of you, and then it just carries without you having to put your own marketing dollars or champion. So it's so much easier. Someone can say great things without you being there than you having to continue to lobbying and having to continue to build those. You should still do that, but building that is a great foundation so that you're set up for success.
It's not out of desperation. You're doing it because you can and you want to, and it helps. You're not doing it because, shit, if I don't get another sponsor, we can't do this event. It's like, it's a lot less pressure and it's a lot more genuine, which makes better relationships, and round we go.
Gabby, I know we talked about some deep stuff, so I wanted to end with one question. And any hobbies that you have outside of the work that you're doing and outside of your kids and your husband, any things that you do for fun that you'd like to share?
So I pointed to running. I haven't done that since I had two babies way too close together, so I haven't done it for a while. Running, it saved my life from anxiety. I've met so many people from it. I've seen so many different places, like traveling just to do races. Running is definitely one of my favorite things to do. And if you have a race, you're going to train. So that's my brain trick. And then I'm a typical white girl. I love true crime. I read the books, I watch the documentaries, I listen to the podcast. Like, that's my decompression, which I think makes me a little crazy. I decompress listening to true crime, but I feel like it's common.
Yeah.
Those are my two. I love reading psychological thrillers, crime dramas, all that stuff. Reading that, listening to podcasts, and then listening to them while I'm running. And then, I mean, being a mom, it's still new to me and it's still fun and exciting and freaking hard, but that's how we get better at stuff, right? Is challenges. So those are definitely my outside of work passions.
I love it. It
For
does come
sure.
with the manual. I know I saw your medals and I was like, humble brag with all these medals you have back there.
They're known as only 2 of them are marathons. It's not that impressive.
It's still a lot of medals. But thank you so much for having this conversation. It's been a long time coming. I'm really happy we were able to have it, and I know the audience is going to get a lot out of it. Where can they find you and learn more about pro event tips?
Oh, social media. I have a lot of fun with that. I'm not as good as Miss Kayla is here, but I'm getting there. So I'm on Instagram as Pro Event Tips. And then my LinkedIn is my name. We'll put it in the episode description because it's way too many letters, Gabriella Robuccio, to say right now. And then www.proeventtips.com has all the services and stuff that I offer and links to the YouTube videos and stuff that I put out if people are interested in, learning more of these little tips and tricks.
And I'm sure they will be after this. If they don't know you already, because I said you're popular. But thank you for having me. Thank you for joining on the Feel Worthy podcast. I'm so excited for this episode to come out, and I hope you have a great day, Gabby. Thank you.
You as well. Happy birthday, Miss.